Yes, yes, you are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 1039 WYAB. And we're streaming on Rumble. And we're streaming on X. And we're streaming on YouTube. And we're streaming at the mothership. That is WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch, that is WYAB, the radio signal, hit us up on the stream. Like, share, and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. I'd appreciate a follow on X at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. And the number today, if you want to be on the program, is 601 879 0002. Text line is open 601 879 5060. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is the same. It is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. And if this isn't true, I don't know what is. Whoever corrects a scoffer gets himself abuse, and he who reproves a wicked man incurs injury. If you go ahead and try to correct somebody who's acting the fool, they hate you. But if they actually have some wisdom and you set them aside and you correct them, they're thankful for it. Isn't that just a complete metaphor for today in life? No one wants to be corrected. Everybody's got to be right all the time. Or if they do find it, it's somebody else's fault. That's why it's all screwed up. You got to go blame somebody else. And that just is hit home for me over and over again. The storm last night, if you didn't hear Clay and I talking about it, BA Farm fared pretty good. Chickshaw had a roof ripped off of it, but we didn't lose any animals, thank goodness. And that's something that the Sweet Bee and I can go get fixed this afternoon. We'll get it back up and running, get those chickens taken care of. Lambs are doing good. Phoebe came in the house the other day, which was really nice. One of our livestock guardian dogs. She just came in and lay down with me for a day. It was kind of nice. But where I want to start is with this whole Tucker Carlson fiasco that's going on. And I think it's a symptom of a symptom, as one of my good friends would say. There's something bigger than it's way bigger than just Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is great, and I appreciate everything that he's done. I've agreed with many of his points, and some of them I disagreed with. And the question is if you disagree with Tucker, could you go one on one in verbal combat with him to prove your point? I think some could, many could not. So we're going to start off with Tucker. Tucker came out and said he's been being investigated by the CIA. And I'm getting this from Ethan Fleshberger. Comes on my list, that we built for TTP Tuesday, which we'll have one tomorrow. And these are just some of the points. Tucker Carlson has alleged being conducting his own foreign policy with Iran on behalf of the United States. Tucker Carlson is a private U.S. citizen who can go do what he wants to do. He's a journalist, so he's got that First Amendment right. But you know what he's not? He's not a U.S. senator. How many U.S. senators go overseas on these foreign missions and conduct diplomacy on behalf of the United States? Lindsey Graham, looking at you. At some point, the CIA got wind and informed President Trump, who may have then used Tucker as an unwitting counterintelligence asset. This was a couple times that Tucker's come out and said something and the U.S. has done something else, right? This isn't the first time. Tucker is very critical of Israel. And there are a group of Americans out there that are very pro-Israel. Israel can do no wrong. Then there's a group out there that I feel are worse than Nazi Germany. And they will sit there and they will spam you texts full of lies. I mean, it's not even hard to debunk them anymore. You just take the tweet, you put it in there and say, AI, Grok, is this real? Nope, this is wrong. I mean, it takes just mere seconds to debunk. But Americans, and I'm being truthful about this, I'm coming from a place of love. Americans are so lazy, we won't even fact check what we want to believe. If it's in our heart and we believe it's real, then we don't have, it just must be true. It must be true. we've been given all of this intelligence, all of this technology, all of this information, and we can't even go out and look to see if things are real or false. Following the launch of Epic Fury, Tucker's behavior may have finally caught up with him as DOJ prepares an criminal complaint against him based on CIA intelligence. Well, I'm glad I trust the CIA, don't you? CIA intelligence. I'm telling you what, this gets me more upset when CIA is spying on our own people when they're not supposed to, and when the DOJ is gonna file a lawsuit, a criminal complaint. You're gonna have Tucker have a criminal complaint before the protesters and the fraudsters in Minnesota or the protesters in LA or the crazy Palestinians in New York. We're gonna go after Tucker. And I honestly I've watched Tucker. I am not like one of these habitual listeners of Tucker Carlson. I listen to the things that I find important to me. You are what you can consume. The media I like to consume is a lot more spiritual based, a lot more international based, and frankly, a lot more soccer based. That's my little getaway. But we're sitting here, we're consuming all this stuff based on beliefs on whether it be X, TikTok, 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 Facebook, Instagram, whatever you decide to choose, YouTube, Rumble, get them all in there. And we are not actually learning, we are reaffirming. We are not using the technology to we want. So all of a sudden, this guy comes out and says that based on CIA intelligence, DOJ prepares a criminal complaint. Has anybody watched the Clinton News Network lately or MS Now and the propaganda and the lies that they're putting out? How come we're not going after them? CNN embedded people in Iran for crying out loud. They ran a 4-minute propaganda speech uninterrupted with no counterpoint analysis. Maybe the CIA should be going after CNN. Or is it that Tucker is just an individual in the United States? And it's a lot easier to go after someone who leans to the right than to go after a leftist news organization that would absolutely destroy the United States of America if they had their way. Bernard Shaw is rolling over in his grave. You've got even the people on the left are finding it hard to follow MS Now and CNN. And with all the problems that we've got going on in the world, and in the United States for that matter, we're gonna focus on this. There is so much that needs to be worked, and I haven't even said the E word yet or the C word. Could the DOJ potentially go after some of these proven cases of sexual assault, sexual harassment inside Congress? Do we really need a $17 million slush fund for that? Part of me thinks that some of it might be a little bit bogus just because it's so outrageous and outlandish that it couldn't possibly be true. But then reality comes in and says, "Here, hold my beer." There are people out there who have made quite a living reporting out outrageous and outlandish claims and ended up having been correct. Example, Alex Jones. Another example, Laura Loomer. And I was thinking about that as Clay was talking about that this morning, because I do listen to Clay when I drive in, In today's morning drive, we'll talk about that in the next segment. Some people need to have their driver's licenses revoked, but that's neither here nor there. But when you look at some of the people who do some of the most pro 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 provocative type of reporting, they don't have gentle answers. They have a lot of harsh words, and they stir up anger, which gets people talking about them, which gets their ratings up, which steers them down a path that gets them a lot of clicks and views and money, but does it really help society in general? I view Laura Loomer as one of those. There's even a she's even got a word named after her, Loomered. She was debanked for her beliefs. One minute she's for Trump, the next minute she's not for Trump, and the thing is if you're calm and have a sound demeanor about it, it's not a big deal to have a disagreement with President Trump. But if you can just sit there and say, "I disagree with President Trump on what we're doing on the border. Here are my facts, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm done with it." No, you've gotta go in and go full West Ham United. You've gotta make yourself the main character of the story. You've gotta be the one to get out there and be the one who's breaking the news. You know, the best politicians, the ones who especially as I study the founding fathers, the ones who really had the most difference were the ones on the side, the ones who spoke softly, the ones who pushed the direction of the debate without having to make the debate all about them. And don't get me wrong, there were some of those of our founding fathers who made it all about them, fam. And I guess you need those too. But in a world where an 8-year-old can go ahead and start consuming information that an 8-year-old brain doesn't have the maturity for, it's a problem. And what happened to Laura Loomer, what is happening to Tucker Carlson is, to me, completely outrageous. Is Tucker Carlson going over there and selling them schematics to the KC-135 to Iran or to China? Well, they wouldn't have to sell them to China. China already stole it all. China and Russia spies have completely stolen everything, but I I think there might be a few black secrets out there that they didn't get into, but, I mean, when you look at some of the technology that China and Russia have put out, you know where they got it from. They stole it from us, and every so often, we have a story where Chinese spy gets busted in Canada, with the plans for the F-22 engine. It's ridiculous. The CIA is trying to make Tucker an agent of the IRGC, and it's the CIA who's doing this. Now, to be fair to Tucker, Tucker's come out with a 5-minute and 21-second clip, which, in my opinion, will not be seen by many. There'll be some who wanna go ahead and just say, "Tucker bad," and immediately throw him to the wolves, and there'll be the side that's Tucker good, protect him at all costs, and then there's the rest of us in the middle are just saying, "Is this the best you've got to do with the time that you've got on your hands? With the precious resource of time, your best thing to do is to go ahead and go to war with Tucker Carlson?" I would argue it'd be better to go against ABC, CNN, MS Now, but that's just me. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We're just getting started. We'll be right back. Yo, yeah, the good old Andrew Gosser show. We won't let you down. We'll bring the receipts and read them and weep them, just like we say we do always do. That's what we do here. So I want to take this propaganda war that's going up against Tucker Carlson, and I talked about it a little bit with Clay, the KC 135 story over the weekend. How many of you heard about this? This is really near and dear to my heart, because last week not only did we lose 6 brave airmen, but it was used as propaganda by the Iranian military. First, that they claimed that it was they were responsible for the bring down. It wasn't. That we'll find out what the real reason was. We'll figure out. We'll debrief the other plane that was involved. They'll listen to the black boxes. They'll get everything put all together, and we'll get it put together, and we'll figure it out. But then this comes out. Iran shoots down 5 U.S. tanker planes at Saudi air base. And I'm getting all these headlines from ground news. There's this one in I can only assume is some type of Asian script. Iranian missile strike lowercase U.S. airbase in Saudi Arabia. 5 smaller lowercase U.S. aerial refueling tankers damaged. When this came through over the weekend, my phone was blowing up. "Andy, did you hear what happened in Saudi Arabia?" And I'm sitting here thinking, "My goodness, there was gonna be video of this, there's gonna be, pictures of this." There's nothing. But yet, one of the news aggregators that I trust, Ground News, has hundreds of stories on this, and it gets the main propaganda points for Iran out there. Air Force refueling plane struck by an Iranian missile strike in Saudi Arabia. All this puts together and starts sowing seeds of doubt into the American conscious, the psyche of the American. And look, when things like this happen, those of us who are in the military, we're like, "Man, this sucks. I hope this isn't real. What really happened?" That's where we're at. We're in a facts-based business. But to the lunatic left out there, they're looking at how they can monetize this, how they can weaponize it, how they can change public opinion. They're immediately running to it, and it's absolutely shameful to me that Ground News has just allowed this to happen. And not only that, but all the resources that I can see from here, because it always tells you lean left, lean right. There are so many lean left and lean right news sources out there that are reported on this, that they got rope-a-doped. They got sucked into the trap. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, you are what you can consume. Who do you trust to sit there and report the news? I I pay for Ground News. I'm not ashamed to admit it. It's a business expense. But to say that this lie gets perpetrated around the world, something as easily confirmable as KC-135s being struck by missiles in Saudi Arabia, for so many people, well, not even people, but for so many Americans to fall for it. It worries me. So then we bring it back to Tucker, where it's not so easily discernible, where we have to go to the government to trust the government on this kind of stuff, where we have to believe that we're made to believe that the CIA has done this investigation on Tucker. Texter coming in, talking about Tucker. It's relevant. I want to read it. I love Tucker, but he is a distraction. At this moment, over 60% of the world's natural gas tankers are anchored. That's all going to cause all kinds of issues. I believe with that. Um, is Tucker really a distraction, or is Tucker really the type of problem that the world has? Someone who really doesn't care whether you're on the left or the right. He's gonna report it as he finds the facts. He comes across as a very affable man, someone who's very likable. He doesn't sit there and go full angry mode on you unless you bring it up. He'll never be the first one to swing the sword, but it will be the last. So it's people like Tucker Carlson that the people in government need to get rid of. And quite frankly, this is what hurts people like Thomas Massey and Rand Paul so much is that they're sitting there swinging their swords all the time, and they might have valid points, they might have valid ideas, but the way in which they bring that information forward completely invalidates their argument. Tucker, not so much. People like Rand Paul and Massey, Congressman Massey, you might like them, but they get themselves isolated in Congress and in the Senate. They're always expected to be there for the vote, but I don't like where this propaganda war is going. And when I see ground news reporting it, and you know, it's funny because even in some of these news sources, American Wire News, Trump rips quote unquote fake news over pro-Iranian coverage. Says takeover of Hormuz Strait is coming. American Wire News. They sit there and the headlines they write, and look, we all do it, right? Let's not kid ourselves. We all sit there and look at the headlines, whether we go to well, I would never suggest going to Drudge Report, but there's still people who do. There's still people on the right who do. They'll go to Drudge Report, look at the headlines, Citizen Free Press, go to the headlines. What's going on right now? U.S. intel believes Iranian supreme leader is likely, quote unquote, a homosexual. And Trump is laughing at it. I mean, why are we? What's going on with journalism in America? The news. It's almost like we've truly turned into the Truman Show. You know, those of us who take our jobs seriously, our life seriously, our news consumption seriously, we look for different sources that will actually bring us to the facts of the case. And I'm not saying that we weren't propagandized in the '70s and '80s through the big 3. I'm sure Operation Mockingbird was then going on then too. But it just seems more and more, it's just the more salacious the headline, the more we fall for it. And I don't want people to fall for what is happening. And this is what's happening with Tucker. And this is standard for the course with the CIA. How many times have we heard leaked reports, leaked reports, leaked reports from the CIA, from whoever, the Mossad, and it gets everybody running in a general direction, and then by the time we find out it's too late, we're all looking at each other like, "What the heck just happened? What did we just do?" It's infuriating to me because if it can happen at the big stage, whether that be Tucker Carlson or the KC-135s in Saudi Arabia, what does that mean that they can do in Jackson or in Brandon or in Terry? You are listening to The Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. It is the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. There's one more part to this Tucker Carlson story that I wanna talk about, and it is arguably one of the well, it is, in my opinion, the biggest surprise in or tactical, uh, surprise that you can pull in combat is the element of surprise itself. And people are saying that somehow by Tucker visiting the White House and taking his picture, that it's blowing the element of surprise. Ladies and gentlemen, the element of surprise as we know it in modern military warfare, it's over. There are Twitter accounts out there that are posting air routes of military aircraft minute by minute. We have major combatant commanders talking about how much of a pain in the neck it is to try to keep movements of troops and ships and airplanes quiet because everybody can go look at flight log data and see where the planes are. They can go ahead and go to What About Shipping YouTube channel. It's awesome. Uh, the guy there actually has the pings of all the ships, including if the US warships are pinging, we see it. So telling me that we're gonna somehow screw up the element of surprise with Tucker just doesn't make sense to me. Is it because Tucker leans more to what some would say the right of the political spectrum is why he's being used in this way? I mean, if you really wanna sit there and take the black pill, you just, like, keep on eating the black pills and you keep on getting sicker and sicker until you get so sick you finally throw up and vomit all over yourself. What if Tucker's really a double agent, right? He goes into Israel, meets with Mike Huckabee, he's talking to them, and then he gets roughed up in Israel, and then he goes in and he starts talking about Iran, and then he goes to the White House, and they use him in that aspect. There's just way too much nonsense here for us to really get upset about over one person. For me, I don't want the CIA going and investigating Americans who are are known journalists who have known contacts. Look, he met with President Putin of Russia. Everybody wanted to flog him then. Then he goes ahead and goes to Israel. Then he goes to Saudi Arabia. This is Tucker's journalistic. I mean, he's not like he's sitting there being a saboteur. Oh, Andy, it's just a cover up. You can join like the 15 other continuous texters who are feeding me the same undocumented, incorrect propaganda X accounts over and over again. They'll send me this picture of Tucker, but then send me 5 pictures of AI slop. I mean, you know it's bad when they got, like, crashed footage of a supposed US airframe, and the tail markings are not in English. They're in something different. It's not even real script. You can tell it's just AI generated slop. Looks good to the novice, but when you sit there and start looking at stuff, it gets really bad. The tactical element of surprise is gonna have to be faster than the speed of light. And to everybody who's in it coming in, so Andrew, what's your take on Israel? You don't wanna know my take on Israel. It's such a biblical worldview that the Jews would hate me for it, and then the Gentiles will hate me for it, and then the Zionists will hate me for it. I'm an equal opportunity hater. People I can tell exactly where you're going too, whether you quote Genesis, whether you quote Ezekiel, whether you quote Galatians or whether you quote Matthew. I can tell you exactly how you're gonna think just by what you quote. Again, what do you consume? And do you just consume or do you logically think about the stuff that you're putting into your body, whether it's hearing or seeing or listening or watching? actively reading. Remember that back in I don't know if they still teach us anymore. In fact, I doubt it. But they used to call it actively reading. Not just sitting there reading the words out loud, but actually thinking about what you're saying, what you're doing. I am so certain that today's TikTok influencers are just about, "Oh, this looks good. Let me make a quick TikTok on it." Out we go. I think we've talked about Tucker enough. If something comes out, I mean, and here's the thing. I know the DOJ is a big b body of people. Lots of bureaucrats, lots of attorneys, lots of clerks, lots of legal assistants. But can we just prosecute some of the crimes that have already happened? Can we just go ahead and prosecute some of the stuff we know is bad and get some faith and confidence back in our judicial system? I mean, and think about it, when you think there are powerful men and women who will pay hundreds of thousands of dollars just to avoid a lawsuit because of the perception of wrongdoing, what's it say about the people who are actually really doing bad stuff? People are complaining about the 22,000,000 we spent on lobster and steak for our troops. How about the 60,000,000 that we spent on the Oscars last night? I've got that story. Let me pull this up real quick here. 7,000 glasses of champagne, 90 kilograms, so roughly 212 pounds of steak, 30 pounds of caviar, 75 chefs, 45 pastry chefs, 300 plus staff. Cost in production, $60,000,000. Complaining about the 22,000,000 that our troops were eating. They'll have whole stories on that. You'll have CNN going off on that, but nobody talks about the Oscars. And did anybody really watch the Oscars last night? It used to be a big deal in my household. We get the popcorn out, we get the TV, the big color TV. It was a big day when we got the 22-inch color, the big TV tube and heavy, and me and my sister carried it in and carefully propped it up. I don't even know who the host was, but he was complaining about Turning Point USA and counter programming. Meanwhile, the Turning Point USA American halftime show was the second most watched YouTube stream in the history of YouTube. And then they made a pedophile joke, and everybody nervously laughed and talking about how the British prosecute their pedophiles, but America doesn't. No, what does America Oscar company and crowd do? Oh, we just sit there and laugh at it. We are so screwed up, ladies and gentlemen. Our priorities are completely out of whack. $60,000,000 for 7,000 glasses of champagne. What type of champagne was that? 212 pounds of steak. I thought they were all vegans. I thought, they were all vegans or vegetarians, telling us not to eat meat, save the aminals, save the world, save the whales. And there are good people who are out there looking at this, trying to break it all down and digest it. But when you've got so many lemmings out there who can't take the time, and the lemmings, look, we need to just cast them aside. But there's so many good people out there, like many of you, who simply don't have the time to sit there and break all this stuff down. You're too busy being a working mother of 2 kids, and you've gotta bust tables, or you're a father who's a lineman out there working in crazy conditions. You're a bricklayer, you're a plumber, you're an electrician. You don't have time to track all of this stuff. We're depending on the quote unquote experts, the professionals, to hold America accountable and honest. But those who are saying holding America accountable and honest are praising the works of Zoran Mondami and what's happening in New York or what's happening in Minnesota with Tim Walz and complaining about Tucker Carlson or our troops getting steaks. Or they're gleefully reporting on how 5 American KC-135 tankers were, I injured or not injured, but damaged in a fictitious airstrike from an Iranian missile. Where are we? What are we? And then there'll be people like Andrew Gosser who come on the show and say, "Hey, get involved locally, just focus on local stuff." And you're like, "Andy, but all this bigger stuff is happening, it's not gonna matter what's happening locally." It all politics starts locally. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. And we are back at the Andrew Gosser Show. Brother Chase checking in, and he had a really good point. You know, we get all wrapped up in steak and lobster, the Oscars, fake Tucker news, fake KC 135 news, but we're completely silent on the 2 terrorist attacks that happened in the United States last week. We've already moved on from that. We'll sit there and we'll focus on all of this other crazy news, Gulf of Hormuz or Straits of Hormuz and all that. They'll use the weather to distract us. They won't talk about the real shortage of natural gas that's going on around the world and how weak Europe is. You know, Europe is truly a Gomer. If you know what a Gomer is, then you go look it up in the Bible, read who Gomer was. But they're true Gomers. They will sell themselves out for cheap energy while at the same time promoting Greta Thunberg and saying how we need to get rid of oil and natural gas. They're the biggest Gomers of them all. I hope some of y'all go read the story of Gomer. It's an interesting read. I just got sent this picture, and we're going to talk about it in the next hour, about apparently the open street preaching. How many people like street preachers? We don't like street preachers because they make us feel uncomfortable. Christian street preachers are crazy. We'll sit there and we'll badmouth them all the time. And I'm not saying I am not one. I don't have it's not my calling. I don't have that gift. I could preach in a pinch if I had to. I'm more of an evangelistic type. But have you heard the street preaching that's going on in New York now? Calling for the open downfall of America by imams and clerics and sheikhs. We don't hear about that. We're too busy worried about the weather. I don't mean to be doom and gloomy, but the more I try to pay attention to and do the show prep to make sure that the show flows right, it's 'cause it's one thing I could just sit there and talk about this story and talk about that story. Life is easy. But to have it all flow and make sense is difficult. I just put on my X at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. They've got a picture of the Ayatollah Khomeini in Paris in 1978. And they juxtapose that with the picture of Zorhan Mandami in New York City in 2026. It's frightening. Are we getting too much information to where we're overeducated? Are we getting so much information that it's just flying by at us so fast? You know, there's a group of about 8 of us in a text group, and the information comes by so fast and so furious, it's almost to the point to where we're gonna have to put a point in it and say, "Hey, maybe we kinda scale this back. Maybe we just focus on Jackson and Mississippi and not so much on the stuff around the world." I argue that we don't do that because if we do, that other stuff is eventually gonna come here, and we're gonna fall prey to it. And we have to fight it, but at the same time, we've gotta make sure that we don't fall for the superfluous stuff. The stuff that's easy to distract us. If it's easy to distract you, you should be sitting there thinking to yourself, "What really are they talking about? What really are they trying to deceive us with?" I believe it's a takedown of America. It's a long play, though. They can't do it militarily. We've got too many guns. Next hour, we're going to talk about street preaching in New York. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
we proclaim our support for the Islamic Republic. Shame, shame, USA! Shame, shame, USA! Iran is the central pillar of the struggle against U.S. imperialism and Zionism today. The Islamic Revolution in 1979 served as the catalyst of anti-imperialism and anti-occupation globally.
America first. He means bankers first. He means Wall Street first. He means corporations first. Because this war against Iran and this genocide in Palestine, this is Wall Street's war. It is a banker's war. What is the crime of Iran? They refuse, they are a major oil and gas producing country that refuses to pay tribute.
إذا السماء انفطرت وإذا الكواكب انتثرت وإذا البحار فجرت وإذا القبور بعثرت.
Powered by their flaws in order to try to silence us. Why? Because our numbers will never be defeated. And in this holy month of Ramadan, my brothers and sisters, I call
Resilience and the pursuit of justice inspired political.
This stuff is just crazy. It is so scary. That was New York, by the way. We're going to play that coming into the top of the hour break. Yes, we are back for hour number 2 of the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB, accurately chronicling how the internet and the World Wide Web and social media are rotting out our brains right before our very eyes. We are streaming on Rumble. We are streaming on X. We are streaming on YouTube, and we are streaming at WYAB.com. We also have our 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal out there, so if you can't pick up the signal, hit us up on one of our streams, like, share, and subscribe. We would appreciate it. Follow me on X at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. Number, if you want to be part of the program today, is 601-879-0002. The text line is open. Got some spicy ones. 601-879-5060. Appreciate everybody who participates in the program. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show, it's standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? You all are the saints. Political correctness is fascism masquerading as manners. I know it's not a biblical proverb, it's George Carlin, but it's true. Political correctness has been used in the United States to completely silence those who have morals and values. They've used to keep you all quiet. And I was sent this, and it's honestly, I would expect to see this in England or in France or in Germany, but this is right here in the United States. And what Andrew, what does this mean here for us in Mississippi? Well, we had reasons to try to get ban Sharia law, but it's coming. It arguably is already here in many places. It's actually here in Mississippi. We just don't want to admit it.
We proclaim our support for the Islamic Republic. Shame, shame, USA! Shame, shame, USA! Iran is the central pillar of the struggle against U.S. imperialism and Zionism today.
Well, now you know why everybody's ticked off about President Trump going into Iran. They said the quiet part out loud. This street imam, this street preacher, admits it. Iran is the main pillar against America in the world. It's bigger than Russia. It's bigger than China. It's bigger than whoever you want to put in there. They have defiantly called for the death of America for over 47 years. And finally, is it weird numerology, weird coincidence, 47 years, 47th president? It's right here. And does CNN cover this? Does any of our local news outlets cover this? And the thing is, I can play this, and I'm gonna play a little bit more of it, but there's another point that I wanna bring in. Let's listen to this a little bit more.
The Islamic Revolution in 1979 served as the catalyst of anti-imperialism and anti-occupation globally.
So there you go. Do you want an Islamic Republic where your daughters are dressed up in burqas and hijabs? Where your young men are sold into slavery? Because we can talk about slavery all we want here in America. It isn't going on anymore. There's not one person who can say where the slave owners at. Show me. But I can show you slavery going on right now in the Islamic world. I can show you slavery going on in Africa. The big difference is that we have freedom here to talk about it, to have open discourse. We have a First Amendment. You try to express your First Amendment rights over in the Islamic Republic of Iran and see what happens. 50,000 bodies piled up, no questions. They don't even lose an hour of sleep over that. Meanwhile, you've got Susie Two Toes over here with the pink hair, gauged ears, nose ring, complaining about the maltreatment of the the wild field mouse, and we're having this sextortion all across the world. We're so blind about this, but I the thing that really got me when this video came, and it's got like another 3.5 minutes. I don't know if I need to play any more of it. What really got to me was the age of the people in this crowd. If there are more than 50 people above the age of 30, I'm shocked. Here, I'm gonna play the video with the sound down low because I wanna try to take an account to this here.
America first. He means bankers first.
Look at this.
He means Wall Street
All
first.
these kids, and they're wearing like
Corporations
they're not wearing the Hamas headbands. They're wearing like the red Hamas headbands. They've got pictures of the Ayatollah Khomeini. They've got pictures of they've got these headbands with this Islamic writing across it. And this is in New York. They got the women wearing the hijabs. They've got a Hasidic Jew there actually wearing that. They're singing songs. And they're flying the Iranian flag in America. Man, what a great country we live in when we can sit there and have our enemies come over here and protest openly without being shot. Wow, there's a picture of the Twin Towers crumbling. Al-Quds Day, New York City. That's when this came from. I've seen enough. I've seen enough. So when those of us who are conservative get anti-Sharia law put forth in the Mississippi state legislature, and it dies in committee, and we don't see things like this, that's what's going to, it did happen here. It was briefly talked about on WLBT. I've got the story permanently saved on my laptop here. This is from Mississippi Today, the immigration battle, Mississippi for a Just World. You know, that stuff is real. And I am not exactly sure how to convince enough people to actually write their state reps and state senators to get this stuff passed so we don't have to deal with it here. The Islamic Revolution that started actually in 1978, the year before, completely marketed the youth of Iran. It's almost the exact same talking points. Like if you go back and study history, I know we don't study history in our schools anymore, or the history that we do study is in African lesbian studies. They'll sit there and say free Palestine, but they won't free Iran. Meanwhile, you've got the Iranians who fled the Islamic Republic over here protesting bigger than these other protests, not getting covered. By the way, I retweeted that. It came from Carl Higbie. I think he's a Newsmax guy. And we're worried about the DOJ getting involved with Tucker Carlson. Let me just bring this all forward. In Nevada, there is a sheriff. His name is Kevin McHale. He's being praised nationwide for refusing to release a convicted felon with 35 prior arrests, despite his release being ordered by a leftist judge. Andy, you're saying the same patterns over and over again. I just see patterns. That's like God's given all of us gifts in life. My gift is the ability to see the pattern. And the pattern I see is one that uses the three pillars of the American justice system or American government, the executive branch, the judicial branch, and the legislative branch, pitting them against each other and tightening the controls just ever so slightly. So we start spinning quicker and quicker. And soon, the wings of liberty and freedom aren't gonna be able to produce enough lift to go ahead and overtake the executive, the legislative, and judicial branches, and we're gonna start flat spinning. You've got a leftist judge who's about to hold this sheriff in contempt of court for not releasing this convicted felon with 35 prior arrests because she wants to put him on an ankle monitor. That'll stop somebody from committing a crime, an ankle monitor. And you've got the people in Nevada praising this, but you have the elite, political elite who are using political correctness and longstanding tradition to say, "That's not what we do in America, we follow the law." What happens when the law starts not following the Constitution? Do we have a duty to stand up to that? What are the legal rights of the citizens of Nevada against this judge? What is the recourse? What is the remedy? Sometimes I wonder if I even push it too far on air. I feel very blessed to come here 5 days a week and be able to speak to all of you for 2 hours about our representative republic, our Christian representative republic, at least for a little while longer. You better not say that, though. You might be politically correct and irritate somebody. You know, this this is it socialism that's sweeping over us? Is it communism? This religious dogma from Islam that's sweeping over us? In that video that I was playing the audio from, it was talking about a socialistic takeover using Islam. And as far as I know, socialism only works in 2 places. Both of them are spiritual in nature. The first place is in heaven, where you don't really need socialism, and the other place is hell, where they already have socialism. That's a takeoff of Ronald Reagan. But it's true, it's what they're trying to do. You think about everything that they're passing in the Congress and even in the Mississippi State House. There more programs, more funding for education, more funding for hospitals, more socialism. We are abdicating our own personal responsibility to take care of ourselves and educate ourselves. And we have to stand up, we have to fight for it, and all these black pillars out there, you just need to keep on taking those black pills till you get so sick of it that you actually come back and figure out that your life is worth fighting for, that this representative republic experiment in democracy is worth fighting for. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Ah, yes, we are back on the Andrew Grosser Show, 103.9, 1039 WYAB. It's incredible. I just got a text from somebody in California. $8.12 a gallon for a gallon of gas in California right now. Before all you anti-Trumpers and Trump haters start going nuts, remember that California has to blend its own special fuel to save the environment. And the one place that actually made that blend of fuel is actually closing down in about a month. We've reported it here on WYB, and they're about to pay the price for their craziness to their undying loyalty to socialism and environmentalism. They're going to have a lot of problems. There's a guy on X I'd like all of you to at least follow and check in with from time to time. It's Cynical Publis at CYNICAL Publis, PUBLIUS. And to be fair, my whole first hour of the show was going to be covering this topic, but he made a post and I just figured I'd read bits and pieces of it and kind of comment on it. But what I want to say is doxing is never cool. And when you use doxing as a weapon, it's definitely going to send a chilling effect on the person that you're doxing. I can tell you that, being doxed myself. But it is a weapon that is used primarily by the left, but it's also used on the right sometimes. You kind of see it right now with happening with Tucker, somebody leaking something about him. And the thing about Cynical Publis is that he is a military guy, and he writes from a position of anonymity on the internet. He has never violated his oath to the oath to the Constitution of the United States. Never been accused of doing anything wrong. And he was doxxed. So I'm going to kind of do this in reverse order. I'm going to read what he says, and then we'll kind of take it from there. Dear friends, thank you so much for the support over the past couple days. The incredible outpouring of sympathy, prayers, and offers to help have been completely overwhelming and amazingly gratifying. I feel so blessed to know you all. The demons on the other side of this affair knew exactly what they were doing. They sought to wreak havoc on my life, my family's lives, and to destroy me. They will fail, and they've made me indomitable. Well, that's good, dude. I'm glad to hear that you survived your doxing experience. I can tell you that us as war fighters, we do deal with it a lot better than our family members do. However, I'm burying my brother this week, and as deeply appreciative as I am for all of your support, may I politely ask that you refrain or try to dial back this controversy for a few days to the extent possible. Brother, done. That's where I'm going to stop this, but I'm promising you this. Next Monday at 10:06 a.m. on the Andrew Gosser Show, we are firing for effect. I'm going to blow this dude up, politically speaking, professionally, military man to military man, officer to officer, because the guy who did this is one of the people who trains our future military leaders. And these people inside our military who are on the political left, who at every turn try to subvert good order and discipline, they just screw it up for everybody else. And if you know about this guy, that I appreciate you giving him a follow. If you followed his posts on X, you'll see that he's a very rationale war fighter. And that's part of the reason that we write some papers anonymously, because some people will write about war theory in ways that maybe aren't conventional. that aren't quote unquote politically correct, and they need to be talked about in a way that they can say what they need to say without being attacked. Happens all the time. And when we have breakdowns like this where we're using doxing of senior military officers, it needs to be sought after and gone after. If we don't, if we do not go ahead and go after the people inside the military who are training our future soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, guardsmen, guardians. That's what the Space Force is. They're guardians. Interesting name there. But if we don't get this rot gut out of our military, if we allow this to happen, then we're already cooked. And I would just say to Pam Bondi and the DOJ, if you really want to go after somebody doing something wrong, how about going after this person who just committed a crime of doxing? If that's what really happened. I think it is doxing, in my opinion. And if we can't police our own streets, what's that going to tell us about everything else? Local news story supporting the war. This actually came out on Friday, but I'm reading it now. Mississippi National Guardsmen and airmen, soldiers to deploy to support Operation Epic Fury. Our man Frank Corder over at Magnolia Tribune came out with this. Members of the Mississippi National Guard have been deployed to support Trump's administration Operation Epic Fury that is waging an assault on Iran's military installations. So if I'm being truthfully honest, is this propaganda? Am I propagandizing the war? I'm reporting it from my side of the story. I don't think it is. Everything here so far is factual by Frank, so good on him. In an effort to ensure the country does not acquire nuclear weapons. So that's why we're going to Iran. And oh, by the way, over the weekend, we did find out they had 11 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. I think they call that yellow cake at that point. That's enough to make more than a few bombs. According to the statement from the Mississippi National Guard shared to social media, airmen. And so, again, Frank is just reporting what we've shared publicly. We're deploying airmen and soldiers from the 186th Area Refueling Wing, 172nd Airlift Wing, and the 20th Special Forces Battalion. So we know we're sending a lot of our young men and women into harm's way. And we just pray that they go over there and are successful in whatever it is that they're going to do. They come back home safe and sound, all 10 fingers, all 10 toes, and that we're here to support them when they get back. Hopefully they don't see anything that scars them, but if they do, they need to know that their fellow Mississippians are behind them. We support our troops, no matter who the commander-in-chief is. I mean, I served under Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, Obama. I had the full spectrum of leadership there, or lack their leadership. Some of you may think that. I never once said, "Oh, I'm not going to follow this order because I don't like President Obama." I would have never gone out on social media and said that either. And speaking of which, have you seen that the U.S. Army is starting to kick troops out for their social media accounts? I had one come up today, and it had about 6 different troops. Jameson's Travels on YouTube. If you don't watch his stuff, you should. He's got an article out there or a video out there. It's 10 minutes, and it's just got these soldiers saying the most stupid things in uniform. Why? You can go out there and speak your First Amendment rights while on active duty, as long as you're not committing a crime, number 1, and number 2, you're not in uniform, and you're not speaking for the government, the president, or the branch of service that you're serving in. Don't even wear your army uniform if you're gonna go to a protest. It's just stupid, and they're getting busted down to E1, and they're getting kicked out. We're thinning the ranks. Wonder if these soldiers were actually there to do good, or were they just agitators? One of them just said they showed up to collect a paycheck and leave. Transportation pool troop. I'd play it, but there's so many F-bombs and other words, I just don't have the time to go ahead and filter it all out, but they're out there, and it's not just the Army, it's the Navy, it's the Air Force, it's the Marines. They're everywhere. They're just like this guy we're gonna talk about next Monday. We're gonna hook him up. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. When the lights come on, the rats start to scurry away. That's what's happening here in Jackson, Mississippi. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB, moving and grooving on a Monday. I always like using local journalists to the max extent possible. I believe in local journalism. I think more of you should be local journalists. Jackson Jambalaya, our man Kingfish. Banks and Lambama want separate trials. It's come from Brother Kingfish. If you haven't checked them out, you should. Where you get your news from kind of defers how you grow and think, how you form logical arguments. And I'm not saying that I agree with Kingfish on everything, but he does seem to get the scoop on a lot of different stuff. Former Jackson City Councilman Aaron Banks wants to sever his trial on federal public corruption charges from the trial of Hinds County District Attorney Jody Owens and former Jackson Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba. A federal grand jury indicted Banks on the conspiracy and bribery on 23 October 2024. The indictment claims Banks solicited a $50,000 bribe. Pretty cheap in Jackson, Mississippi to get a bribe. 50 grand for a budget of the size of Jackson, Mississippi, our state's capital. Owens' insurance mogul Marv Smith formed a company, Facility Solutions Team. I didn't even realize how deep this went. To pursue a contract to develop a hotel for the Jackson Convention Center with what they thought were state developers. In reality, they were at the FBI. Well, good on the FBI. We need to weed out this corruption. And it's bad in Jackson. I'm not saying it's not bad in other places. But it makes me think back to a case that I was involved in. I was over $500,000 and they didn't do anything. And this is just a $50,000 bribe. Guess it just goes to show you what prosecutorial discretion really is. You could do all sorts of wrong stuff, and if the prosecutor just doesn't feel like going after it, he's not gonna go after it. Anyways, it goes on to say, the indictment charges Owens made an initial payment of $10,000 to Banks and promised to hire a relative. Oh, there you go, nepotism. Nepotism will get you every time. Hire a relative. Banks' daughter worked for the district attorney. Wonder how that worked out. Banks and Lumumba filed motions to sever their trials from Jody Owens on February 27th. There's little information to report on the motion since they were filed under seal. Well, how did Kingfish figure this out? I'll tell you what, local politics here in Mississippi is so fascinating. It especially from an outsider like me who comes down and kind of has seen the way politics works in different areas, maybe more populated areas. Former Councilwoman Angelique Lee and Smith pleaded guilty in federal court to conspiracy to commit bribery in 2024 as well. They are awaiting sentencing. I'm telling you what, it's only a matter of time before this finally gets to work into court. It's just a shame it's taking so long. All the resources involved. I go back to Founding Fathers Friday, and think about how they said that, our system of government was only good for a law-abiding group of citizens. And if we're not gonna follow the law, then our system of government stinks, and we're gonna end up either in an Islamic republic or a socialist communistic hellhole like Russia, China, the former East Germany, the Warsaw Pact. Another big story that came through, and I'm going to use WLBT for this. Not against my better judgment, just give him a shout out. Nearly $50,000 of Kratom, which is a drug, has been seized from multiple local convenience stores, according to Rankin County Sheriff's Office. Now, I know this was outlawed and we were supposed to get rid of all this along with the different vapes, and yet they're still having it. This comes after multiple complaints were made from citizens of Rankin County about the drug being sold. So if it's being sold in Rankin County, is it fair to say that it's gonna be sold in Hinds County, Madison County, Yazoo County, Warren County? It was valued at $48,000 worth of drugs, which in today's money doesn't seem like that big. Store employees who made illegal sales to undercover agents were charged with ordinance violation, punishable by a fine up to $1,000 and or 6 months in jail. It doesn't list the stores, and I kinda wish that they would. And this all stems back. Oh, so this is just a specifically a Rankin County ordinance, and I like reading some of these stories live time, especially when they just happen. In March 2024, Rankin County outlawed the sale of kratom, the use of it, the purchase of it, the possession of it, the distribution of it, the sale of it, or offering it for sale for synthetic cocaine and kratom. You'd think that would be like a state issue, don't you think? Like, we wouldn't want this sold anywhere in Mississippi, but yet here we are. Good on Sheriff Bailey. I don't agree with everything that he's done, and he's gonna have to answer for some of the stuff that happened under his watch, but when stuff like this happens, can you not give him credit for it, saying, "Good job"? Are we so politically and ideologically separated that once someone goes a different way that we can't support anything that they do? It's like almost like a family member says, "Andy, I don't want you," and this didn't happen to me, but I'm using myself as an example. "Andy, don't come to Christmas. We don't want you here with your Trump hat." The polarization of the American electorate, the culture, we have to figure out how we're gonna bridge this divide that's been recently created. Lots of uncomfortable conversations are gonna have to be had. And I'm not sure where it gets at, but this kind of speaks to it a little bit. The paradox of tolerance. Unlimited tolerance must lead to the disappearance of tolerance, as tolerating the intolerant allows them to destroy the tolerant. And that's where we're at. We have to accept the craziness of transgenderism so that we can no longer accept it, so that it doesn't matter anymore. People texting and talking about Abby Abby Summer, no, not Abby Summers. Asking about Scott Jensen. We talked about that on Friday. Internet, do something. I don't understand what the texter's saying there. Chase checks in. It would be if men would just nut up and be men, we wouldn't be seeing what we're seeing today. When we put our feelings over facts and godliness, that's when godliness comes in. Yep, Chase, you're absolutely right. You know, if the testosterone in a lot of men, especially middle-aged men, is pretty low, might wanna go to men's wellness center, health and wellness center, get that checked out. I don't know Clay's sponsor. I hear about it all the time. I get my B12 shot from there every week. But men do have to sack up. We do have to start leading again. Everybody likes a good leader, and the ones that don't like it, they'll conspire against him, but they'll fall to the wayside almost every time. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. It was a brave microchip. It fought the war valiantly. I'm going to have to reconsider my subscription to Ground News. U.S. loses at least 11 MQ-9 Reaper drones in Iranian campaign. All sorts of doom and gloom. That's why we have drones, ladies and gentlemen. It allows us to accept a higher level of risk. Can fly that mission over a contested airspace, heavily defended, with surface-to-air missiles, surface-to-air gunnery. On February 28th, Operation Epic Fury began with carrier-launched strikes in more than 20 systems hitting over 1,000 targets, according to U.S. Central Command. And this is coming from Ground News, so I'm taking it as real as it gets. The MQ-9 Reaper provides about a 1,000-mile range and about 27-hour endurance time, so it can loiter for 27 hours. It carries the AGM-114 Hellfire missiles, as well as GBU-12, GBU-49, GBU-38, GBU-34 JDAMs. Those are just different weighted bombs, whether that be a small diameter 250-pound bomb, 500-pound bomb, 1,000-pound bomb. That's all it's saying. So we lost some drones. Imagine if we would have lost F-18 or A-10 or F-35 or F-22. God forbid something even bigger than that. And the headlines, again, are just there to make America war weary. And I want to be the voice against that. I'm not saying I want to go in and slaughter all of our enemies, and if we can use political means to do so, that's great. If we can use diplomacy to do it, that's great. But when it's time to go kick in the doors, it's time to go kick in the doors. And the fact that we lost, apparently we've lost, because I can't find anywhere statistically that reports that we lost 11 drones. Although it is funny that there's this one newspaper calling the MQ-9 Reaper drone a dinosaur. Sometimes in the military, strategically thinking, the older airframes are actually doing a better job than some of our newer ones. An example of this is the Super Tucano. It's a prop air-to-ground strike platform that does really good. It's not as expensive as the A-10, but it's a lot newer, and you would never think to employ something like that. But I'll tell you what, as we move into the next generation of warfare, you're going to see drone warfare spiral. It's going to just blow up, not just in air-to-ground systems, but air-to-air systems, in electronic warfare systems, cyber systems. And it's going to take the human out of the loop as far as flying in that system over hostile territory. Now, it's kind of a bummer when that happens because you don't have a pilot to actually take command of the plane or the aircraft if something goes down. And obviously, you want humans making life and death decisions to the max extent possible. But it just goes to show you, the world is evolving and weaponizing. And where we get our news from is very important, especially local news. It's why you need WYAB. Look, shameless plug here as we get ready to roll up for the end of the day. If you're looking to increase your business, if you're looking to go ahead and grow your business, give me a call. You can go ahead and text my text line, 601-879-0002. Or actually 601-879-5060. I'd love to sit down and chat with you and see if we can't grow our businesses together. 2026 is going to be bright. 2027 is going to be even brighter. It's going to get warmer. Weatherman says it's going to get cold tonight. Another frost warning. Didn't hurt any of the sheep or chickens at the BA farm. We're all good. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow will be another day. We'll come back and we'll do this again. It's training techniques, tactics, and procedures Tuesday. Don't forget that. We're going to do some great stuff. Until then, take care, everybody. Be blessed.